morning and welcome back to the lecture series on tribal studies in India, interdisciplinary perspectives and approaches. So, today we are going to discuss the tribal myths, ecology and nature worship that is prevalent among the tribals. Tribal religion or rather religions, the religions of the tribal people have their roots largely in the oral traditions which are passed down or bequeathed from generation to generation through the word of mouth. So, orality plays a very important role in passing the knowledge from one generation to another. According to Roshan John Joseph, I quote, "Every tribal religious system consists of three essential elements. Firstly, they believe in the existence of a superhuman world which refers to the belief system of tribals. Secondly, they form a human relationship to the superhuman world which refers to their value system. Thirdly, for establishing a relationship, they practice various rites and rituals which refer to their action system." Unquote. The rituals among the tribals are shared with each other through oral means. Many rituals are exchanged among the different systems of religions. The origin of these rituals, however, is very difficult to specifically trace because there has not been any documentation. Most of these have existed in tribal societies in oral form. A lot gets lost between generations when some myth is less prevalent in one generation or across one decade. It is less practiced, less disseminated. Some stories that are less disseminated, they tend to become lesser known, and before long they are effaced. Sometimes they also resurface in another society, in another generation, right. So, the transmission of knowledge through orality is not as unilinear or as definitive as the way knowledge is disseminated in a cryptid kind of community, a community that understands or studies through scriptures. So, tribal religion does not signify any monolithic system of rituals. There is no singular, unilinear or definitive way of interpreting the rituals. The Indian population constitutes of numerous tribes and their systems do not necessarily overlap with each other completely. The understanding of tribal religions through a single frame or through a single lens could be challenging and even erroneous because it has a range of belief systems and rituals depending on the particular tribe. The tribal communities worshipping ranges from the superhumans that the Santhal community call as Bongas. So, the Santhals call their spirits as the Bongas, and it ranges between these superhumans or demigods to trees, rivers and other animate and inanimate aspects of nature. According to Tamu Mibang, I quote, "Most of such tribes have their own notion of religion which are shaped not only through the observance of various festivals, institution of priestship, worship of large number of gods and goddesses, deities, beliefs in spiritual worlds, but also remain embedded deeply within various myths and other forms of oral tradition." Unquote. The three main components or aspects of the tribal worldview are human, nature and God. So, tribal religion necessarily embraces the idea of an integrative and interactive relationship between the community, natural as well as supernatural forces. The tribal identity primarily churns out or evolves out of the totality of an interdependence among these three aspects: human, nature and supernatural or God, such that the meaning of one's existence can be manifested entirely only in conjunction with other aspects of the world that one lives in. So, put simply, all we are trying to say is that God in itself or supernatural in itself does not mean anything unless it interacts with nature and human. Similarly, human in itself does not shape a complete meaning unless in conjunction with nature and God. So, these three aspects are completely interdependent and in conjunction, in togetherness, they shape a more holistic, a more comprehensive meaning of existence. So, the tribals are chiefly a congregational rather than an individual identity, and they make religious offerings, sacrifices and libations at the level of a social unit. Usually the unit is a village or a sub-clan, or at least the smallest unit, which is the family. So, in other words, a tribal never worships individually. Like we see in major religions, the worship and the prayers are very self-referential, and it's kind of a one-to-one relationship between the devotee and God. Here, prayers are not done individually before the deity. Prayers are, offered or presented to the deity in the form of a unit. A tribal person usually understands herself or himself as a part, a strand of a larger social unit, be it the village, the sub-clan or the family. So, it is a very collective existence that the tribals live. Although a significant population among the tribals such as the Santals have migrated to different parts of the country and have nuclear units of households in urban areas, their ancestors had originally looked at the village as their basic communal unit, and they never settled alone or in an uncultivated land. So, the whole idea of origin, ancestral origin, where from one came, takes one's identity back to the village, the rural belonging, and how the village was founded by the founding fathers, basically the few founding members who settled in one part, and they kind of cleared away the land, they made houses, and that is how they formed a larger community that supported each other, that protected each other, and that settled together as a people, as a part of one larger family. So, that is how they appear during their prayers before the deity, as a community, as a larger social unit, and never as an individual. At the heart of the indigenous or Adivasi notion of spirit, there is the panentheistic view, which suggests that the supernatural and the ephemeral world, the divine world and the transitory earthly existence both influence each other, and they cannot be really separated. So, one exists because of the other. The divine and the earthly existence cannot be really dissociated. In this regard, Diarmuid O'Murchu studies the indigenous spirit as, I quote, contained in this world in the realm of everyday events, yet transcends the material and personal creation, unquote. The indigenous religions perceive the humans as a strand or only a small part in the larger ecological web. From a child to a stone, from animate to inanimate, all contribute towards the knowledge of what the great spirit or the one one major God is. So, from the child to the stone, from animate to inanimate, all contribute to the knowledge of what the great spirit or the universal power, the superpower is. The gratitude of the humans towards the birds and the trees results in the indigenous worldview emerging as a biocentric harmonious loop than a homocentric power driven ladder of hierarchy. Now this is very interesting and important to understand, as opposed to the major religions such as Christianity, which is essentially homocentric in nature. At the heart of everything is the figure of the male and then the female, the human and then the male human species, and then his consort, the female, and everything else is at their disposal. They can use the resources of the earth at their own will. This is how Christianity views the world or the earthly existence. Contrarily, the tribal religion or worldview is biocentric in nature. So, human is not at the heart or at the center of the universe. Human is just a part of a harmonious loop, and so human does not have, neither does any other species have the right to destroy or disrupt this loop of existence, this balance. And so, the tribals or the tribal ecosystem does not believe in a homocentric order, a homocentric power driven ladder of hierarchy. There is no caste system among the tribes. That explains how the tribe or the tribal society is never informed by hierarchical order of positions and powers. So, no one is less than the other. It is rather a harmonious loop where people are dependent on one another. The outward physical differences among various aspects of the nature are balanced by spiritual sameness and the existential necessity to share and become a part of the other. So, the concept of individualism, which is prescribed by the Western values, does not hold as far as tribal religion and tribal worldview and philosophy are concerned. They believe, the tribal people, the Adivasi people believe that although our outward physical appearances are different from one another, within we are just in a continuum, and it is necessary to share and become a part of the other, to belong to the larger ecological web or chain. So, our definition is derived through this belonging to the larger chain of existence, right. Our spiritual sameness connects one with the other. So, we also see among the tribals the very interesting phenomenon of anthropomorphic spirits, the spirits that are very much human like and they exhibit anthropomorphic traits. The spirits are imbued with anger, jealousy, lust, desire and so forth. So, it is not in any way, the concept of spirit is not very prominently higher than the ephemeral existence. The humans and the demigods, the spirits are on exchangeable terms in many sense. So, rather than focusing on the hierarchical relationship with one high god or great spirit, the tribals generally practice an equal relationship with anthropomorphic spirits, which intercepts their everyday lives and activities. For example, if we look at the case of the Santals from eastern part of India, although the Santal considers Ponamosar or Dharam as the supreme deity and sun as the symbol of Ponamosar, so they worship the sun as the highest god or the great spirit. At the same time, the Santal also believes in satiating or propitiating the village spirits, the local demigods or smaller spirits, as well as the spirits of the ancestors. So, at the highest level we have the concept of dharam or ponamosar, but at the everyday, at the level of everyday existence or secular existence, the domestic spirits, the ancestral spirits that surround one's day to day activities also need to be propitiated. So, it is believed that these domestic spirits, ancestor spirits, keep a watch over the villagers and symbolize the betterment of the village, betterment of communal health, and a general sense of happiness and fulfillment. So, in fact, the Santal myth alludes a clash between the high god or Thakurji, Ponomosa. So, these are different terms that the tribals use for the sun god. Some call it as the Thakurji, some call it as Ponomosa or Dharam. And there is this myth, like I was saying, that in the ancient times there was a clash between the high god or Thakurji and the lesser spirits, the smaller spirits or bongas. And finally, the lesser spirits were defeated and sent to settle on earth as the messengers of Thakurji. So, these spirits would act as a liaison, a bridge between the supreme god and the ephemeral existence. God is not therefore an absolute and distant object of worship for the tribals, but is believed to accompany the tribals to the hunt and to the agricultural fields. And when we talk about God in this context, we are referring to the demigods, the smaller spirits, the lesser spirits that exist in the ephemeral world. So, in the case of the Santals, we see that the Santals use their agency to nominate only certain species and render them the status of deities. So, there are very many species. As an example, among the Santals, there is the practice of the Santal community using its agency to nominate only certain species and rendering them the status of deities. While there are many spirits, only some are chosen by the tribals and basically acknowledged by them and worshipped by them. Others can be simply ignored. Santali folklores subscribe to the idea of the heaven and the earth as two platforms that are on interchangeable terms. They exchange and interact with one another. Santali myths have it that Thakurji and Thakurani, the great spirit and his consort, had once decided to come and stay on earth, and they engaged this lesser spirit called Jeherburi or Jeherera along with Litebonga and Dhorum to arrange for sustainable resources on earth. So, these were the liaisons that communicated between the humans and Thakurji and Thakurani, the great spirit and his consort. So, Jeherera, Litebonga and Dhorum were the prominent demigods living on earth. That arranged for sustainable resources on earth. That is how the myth goes. The crisis of water on earth was discussed among gods, and Thakurji used an entire consignment of his spirits to resolve this crisis and fill the earth with water. So, basically humans' demands, humans' requests are being channelized to the greater spirit through the smaller deities, the demigods. The Santal's sacred book, Jamsin Binti, uses short oral stories to describe the heaven and the earth, the creation of life by Thakurji, the lores of Hadia or rice beer, the stories on cotton harvesting and creation of clothes, among others. So, this is actually a record of human civilization, how the different stages of human civilization, how the earth was purportedly created, how Thakurji created the earth, and how rice beer was invented by humans, and then humans also invented food, harvesting and clothing and so forth. So, how humans became civilized and a settled people. So, these stories reflect how the three limbs of the tribal religion, its philosophical aspect, its ritualistic aspect and its organizational aspect, all these three limbs are deeply interspersed, deeply interwoven with one another. Similarly, the origin story says that Thakurji consulted the lower spirits in creating the different creatures on earth. So, Thakurji or the major god alone could not have created all the species on earth. For that, he needed the support of the demigods or the lower spirits, which suggests that the Santals, god and spirits function through a sense of accountability towards humans and earthly creatures. If humans are creating a request or a demand towards the higher spirit, and it is communicated by the local demigods, the highest spirit or Thakurji or Purnamasar is bound to fulfill these requests that are deeply interwoven with human survival, human sustenance on earth. So, Santali songs and poems suggest that it is a blemish, it is a shame on God's part if he cannot reciprocate to human prayers and take care of their mundane needs, because humans are God's child. Their demands, their requests also need to be fulfilled by God himself. In the case of the Santals, they believe that the primordial knowledge came to man from birds and animals. So, here we see that the religion involves a human-animal relationship, a deep relationship between human and animals. And this is something prevalent among almost all tribal religions. Their animistic and animalistic aspects or values entail that no existence in nature is dissociated from other existences. So, they are all part of the great chain of being, right. So, humans are not the center of the earth, dissociated from and higher to other species. Other species are not at the disposal of the humans. The human animal relationship is greatly celebrated among the tribals. A biocentric view of the world shapes the values and basic habits of these tribes. A common thread connecting humanity with animality is realized from the origin story. In the case of the Santals, the origin story says that the first man and the first woman on earth, which they call as Pilchu Haram and Pilchu Budi, were brought to existence by a pair of heavenly birds, the Has and the Hasil, which were created out of God's hair. So, the first humans basically were born out of heavenly birds, they were children of birds. The fact that the human is a connecting point between opposing elements can be understood further from the fact that their predecessor birds, Has and Hasil, were mediators between the heaven and the earth. As the origin story goes, these two birds, this pair of birds flew below the sun and above the earth, making a contact with both the worlds. So, human becomes a point of contact. One aspect of human is touching the ephemeral, the animality, the animal values or the animal qualities, and another part of humanity is connected with divinity. So, human is part god-like and part animal-like. So, it has connection to both the worlds. This can be understood from the fact that Has and Hasil would fly below the sun and above the earth, making a contact with both the worlds, and they were the parents of the first human species. So, the idea of a close-knit bond between the human and the animal worlds is also reinforced through Santali folk tales, which refer to human mothers giving birth to animals and vice versa. The Santali myth claims that the mortal world came into being through the earthworm which consumed the earth and excreted it on the back of a tortoise for 7 days and nights. And finally, this tortoise brought the earth above the all pervasive water body. So, at the beginning there was only water till the earthworm kept ingesting and excreting earth on the back of a tortoise, and that is how land surfaced over water. The practice of totemism also points to the Santhal's sense of connection with the animal world. So, this belief in a totem. Among the Santals, for example, the concept of individual body substance cannot be separated or dissociated from one's belonging to a particular clan and one's association with a particular totem. So, an individual identity is not recognized outside of a totemic circle and a clan. So, every Santhal clan is believed to have descended from a totemic animal, and this animal is supposed to be related to the birth and deeds of the ancestors of that particular clan. So, as a way of showing respect, the totemic animal is considered as a clan member, and such an animal or totemic plant cannot be hunted or consumed. In fact, killing a totem is considered as a taboo. It is equivalent to killing a member of one's own clan, and even seeing a dead totem requires one to observe death rituals. Just as intra-clan marriage suggests pollution caused by incest, marriage between two clans that share antagonistic totemic relationship, for instance the Kiskus and the Marandis. In the Santhal community, these two surnames, the Kiskus and the Marandis, can never arrange a marriage, because Kisku represents the Kingfisher clan, whereas Marandi represents weed, and they share the relationship of the consumer and the consumed. So, marriage between these two clans is prohibited. There are several such more examples where marriage between two clans is prohibited, and it is believed that it will not result in a happy union. Through celebrating distinctiveness and specificity in terms of stories, totem, clothing, food habits and worship of deities, each clan consciously avoids the possibility of endogamous alliance. So, they want to maintain their uniqueness and separation from other clans, so that the marriage is more meaningful and fruitful. It is not seen as something incestuous, like two very similar clans are arranging a marriage between themselves. So, clans specifically try to maintain this uniqueness and a kind of cultural distanciation from one another. The Santhal socio-religious behavior is observed as follows. I quote Wilbur here: deeply bound together with other people and with the surrounding non-human forms of life in a complex interconnected web of life, that is to say, a true community. All creatures and things are brothers and sisters. From this idea comes the basic principle of non-exploitation, of respect and reverence for all creatures, unquote. The Santhals additionally also believe in transmigration of souls. Being a part hunter-gatherer and part agro-based settler, the Santhals value crops and fields as much as the forests. So, they have both kinds of professions among them. One is hunting gathering, the other is agro-based settlement. In fact, the Santhal sees hunting as a spiritual exercise which is done under the guidance of the hunt priest called Dihri, who is the spiritual and secular guide of the hunt. The Dihri or hunting guide decides the day for commencing the hunt and the places where the hunters are supposed to spend their nights, and he also arbitrates or decides the disputes centering the claim of a hunted game. For the tribals, it is never desirable and never recommended to challenge the nature. such as by cutting or throwing stones at a tree when it is resting in the night, or by hunting a sleeping animal. It is strictly prohibited to hunt a sleeping animal. Tree that has fallen in their religious space called the sarna. So, they call their religious space as the sarna, and if a tree falls there automatically on its own, it cannot be taken away without the permission of the Pahan, who is the oldest representative or founder both in religious and secular matters. In that case, sacrifices have to be offered before removing the tree from the Sarna region, lest the spirits in that region are angered or hurt. The tribals rear the domestic animals as their own children, and they inherit them as valuable assets. There are many celebrations, festivals throughout the year. In the case of the Santals, they have their Sohrai, where they actually worship the cattle. So, for example, they never deprive a newly born calf of its mother's milk immediately after the birth, for fear that the animals might curse the householder. There will be some kind of bad energy coming to the house if a calf is separated from its mother at birth. The tribals' respect for the larger ecological system is understood from festivals such as the Dimtang Puja and the Sohrai, which entail the construction of a symbolic cattle shed with sal wood and leaves, and inside this structure the images of cattle are kept on small heaps of new rice, newly harvested rice. So, the tribals' thankfulness, their gratitude and obligation towards nature, towards the soul of animals, and which are the potential sources of their food, is understood from their act of not touching any creature with their feet. So, they would never kick an animal, although they would hunt the animal for food, for food resource. They would never mistreat an animal lest its spirit is hurt. In hunting, the principal claimant of a game, if an individual has hunted a prey or a game, he becomes the principal claimant of that game. However, the hunter is obliged to offer small portions of this game to the deities and share the hunt with village members, keeping only a certain part to himself for his own family. So, this is once again the collective existence, the training of living collectively that the tribals have. So, apart from being a source of food, the dead animals and plants are utilized also for medicinal purposes. Further, the paintings of animals are used for rituals that are believed to ward off evil forces or negative forces. The tribals' spiritual beliefs are deeply interwoven with nature and natural forces. He believes that the human psyche alters with climatic changes. For instance, the motherland that they call as Dharti Mai is considered as a female benevolent spirit who is reverenced by the entire community, and she is responsible for agricultural produces. Jaherera, or the Lady of the Sacred Grove, who is invoked for the goodness of the villagers and their cattle and crops, is perceived as a benevolent old woman, and she is supposed to be concerned about the bodily needs of the tribals. Like a mother figure, she is concerned and she fulfills the needs of the tribals. The Jaher Than, as represented by a grove, the Gosai era that is installed under a mahua tree, and in the Pargana Bonga that is installed under a sal tree, all these are spirits or the demigods that epitomize the ritual unity and social solidarity of a Santali or a tribal village. So, through these sacred spaces, the solidarity, the togetherness of a tribal village is symbolized. Spirits are also represented through tactile objects of nature, such as a carved wooden post or a large stone in the shape of a lid, which stands for the Mahadan Bonga or the Mahadan spirit. Apart from bongas and deities, spirits are also believed to be present in peculiarly shaped objects such as the gnarled bamboo shoot, tree roots, unusually shaped hills and waterfalls. So, anything that grows peculiarly in nature is believed to have some form of spirit living in it. Even if they are not worshipped, these spirits need to be pacified for time to time with the help of shamans. Prosperity of agricultural produce is ensured through planting Bhelwa and Mahadev Jata in the middle of paddy field with rice tied up in Bhelwa leaf packet at the top of the branch. So, all these paraphernalia of practices are rooted to one objective or aim, that the produce, the agricultural produce is not destroyed by any negative force, any evil spirit. They considered the famine, the pests and so forth as a manifestation of evil spirits. So, as a way of warding off such negativity, there are very many practices that are and rituals that are performed in the agricultural field itself as a way of protecting the produce. So, Bandai once again is an occasion for propitiating the cattle, which the resources from the cattle greatly boosts the tribal economy. So, cattle are worshipped. So, in Bandai they wash the feet of the cattle with raw milk and water, smearing their horns with oil and offering sacrifices to deities for the cattle's general well-being. They are agro-based communities, so their well-being is tied to the well-being of the cattle and the agricultural field basically. During the Jantal festival, the spirit of the first fruits is worshipped. Without offering the first fruits to the spirit, one cannot consume it. If they do, they believe that production of fruits will be hampered. So, tribals also believe in tree or jungle spirits. In many cases, they consider these as the spirits of their ancestors whose ghosts have not been ritually brought back to their house owing to abnormal death. So, ancestor spirits should be respectfully brought back and kept at the bhitar of the house, the inside of the house, and they should be given offerings during festivals. If an ancestor dies accidentally, then they become a tree spirit or a jungle spirit which needs to be feared. So, malevolent spirits are believed to misguide the tribals from the right path in forests, and they also affect the harvest of crops. The boundary spirits which is known as Sima Bonga are made offerings to prevent drought and failure of crops. Similarly, Kisar Bonga is thought to cause disease, and if not driven out in time, it is believed to eat up the entire household. So, these are the very many stories that actually shape the tribals ritual and religious world, their superstitions, their beliefs, their practices that they have been maintaining and observing since time immemorial. So, with this we come to the end of our lecture here today. Let us meet with another round of discussions with another topic in our next lecture. Thank you.